Hey up. Welcome to the Struggle Bubble. I'm your host, Chad Cutting, with your co-host, Craig Sergi. We're on our third episode, and man, it just feels more and more official. How are we doing, Craig?
We are in the middle of the struggle bubble. We're doing well, but it's been a eventful weekend.
Eventful is an adjective for sure. It feels like ever since we started this episode, and we named it, the right way because we'd experienced it, but this week has been a week, and it's nonstop struggle bubble. And one thing we missed last week when we were just describing the struggle bubble is it's one thing if you have a lot of things going on, right? All of us have a busy life. It's another when you really want to maximize the efficiency and be the best that you can be in all aspects, because there's a give and take and there's a mental energy to always be on top of your game. And my mental energy is depleted.
Yes, I would 100% agree. And just a quick recap: Craig Sergi, coach, Los Gatos United; Chad Cutting, president of Little League. I've just come off a competitive weekend or a tournament weekend. Chad's kids have had the same, or once had the same, and it's been All-Star Week for the baseball. So that's something I have no idea what it's about, but I'm sure we're going to get into that. But the soccer side, I can absolutely get into, and I would just kind of kick us off with that one. The 2016 girls, my team, got pushed into the 2015-2014 bracket of a competition. So I think this is going to lead into a few different things, but it was interesting. We weren't pushed into the highest bracket, so that was beneficial, but there's obviously a physical side difference between a 2016-year-old girl and a 2015-14 born kid. And also psychological. But I think the biggest thing for me was preparing the parents for the expectations, which we'll lead into.
That's going to be a big theme for today's episode. So really getting into, you have the league administration, we have the coaching aspect, but really what comes in and day out, and what originally got us talking before the podcast and just as friends, is we'd have feedback from parents, asking questions on what to expect, asking questions on how leagues should be run, asking questions on how to be properly communicated with, and that leads to a lot of emotions. But a common theme then comes up: what is the main reason we have our kids in youth sports? And then as parents, how do we react to certain situations so that we're putting our kid in the best possible position? And most of the time, if you look at the current trends across the country, there is a lower turnout of umpires in baseball across the board at every level, all the way through college sports. For youth soccer, less and
Same with the
less
refs. Yeah,
yeah,
same
less
with
and
the
less
refs.
kids and parents coming out to officiate. You extend that to coaches. There are less and less people actively volunteering to be a coach, just or giving up after a couple of years. And then the league administration side, less and less people actively volunteering to get involved. And one of the most referenced reasons is the parents. There are a lot of emotions when it comes to youth sports.
Totally true. I think the problem for sure is kind of misplaced priorities. I think there's so many ways you can get around this, and just as a warning to everybody listening, this is experience, right? We're not. This is what we live through daily sometimes. And again, this is no finger pointing. This is just something that we experience and see, and that misplaced priorities. So, multiple angles. There's a pressure cooker, right? So, different scenarios for the parents, right? So, some parents are looking for their kids to go pro. Some parents are looking for their kids to be in elite teams, scholarships, all those different variations. And there's some parents that, hey, my kid just wants to play whatever sport, lacrosse, soccer, baseball, it doesn't matter. They just want to play. So wherever it fans out and they land. And that's great. Be that, I hate the terminologies: copper, bronze, silver, gold, black, green, purple, orange, all the bullshit that wraps around which team you're on. And that gives that feeling of, I'm on the top team, I'm not on the top team, what am I doing wrong? How do I get better? All those things. The other thing is this is a big one, and this is psychology. I kind of call it the dream deferred. trying to live through vicariously through your kid. That's a difficult one to approach. You don't want to kill the kid's dream. You have to keep the parents in line, and realistic overviews. And everyone again that's listening, I've coached from 18-year-old adults all the way down to 5-year-olds, right? So there's a whole cooker in there. We don't know if a 7-year-old's going to become a pro.
Well,
Simple as
this,
that.
if you look at the math around that, the jump from youth sports even into high school, there's only 15, 20, 25% of kids that'll play youth sports in a given sport that will play that same sport in high school. And the numbers continue to decline from there. Only 10% of those kids playing in high school will go on to play a collegiate sport. And then to your point on the pro dream, fractions of a percent of youth sports athletes that will ever be paid or be considered to be paid in a professional setting, and then even fewer going on to be an Olympian. So just
Well,
dialing that all back.
the true math is 0.01%. That's the true math. Is from a 5-year-old. Just referred to soccer again or football. The true numbers of a 5-year-old kicking the ball around, going all the way to signing his first pro contract, is a 0.01% chance. And there's so many variables in that, right? Injuries, not being seen, all these, and we hear the stories from the highest level, right? But we sometimes miss the stories from the grind of getting to that highest level, right? And then, I think I can't remember the true stat, but I think it's 400 players make the NBA. That's the NBA's, I think, max roster. If you maxed all the rosters, etc. So 400 people play in the NBA.
Out of everybody that's interested in playing basketball. So then you weave it back down. So you have a couple of things that you had described of what's going out there emotionally, of how we are positioning our kids and ourselves as parents. And full caveat, both you and I have gone through different degrees of psychology with our own kids. It's really tough in a future episode when your own kid doesn't want to play the sport A, you want them to play, or B, that you have any familiarity with. So there's a lot that comes to you as a parent, but you wind it all back. And if you're setting the end goal as a professional athlete or an end goal as a NCAA athlete, and to some degree an end goal of a high school athlete, I believe that you're missing the point of why we have youth sports in the first place. And that's what's causing this underlying emotion of, uh, is this my identity? This is what my kid is doing. Therefore, this is what I am. And really putting your kids in a tough psychological spot, especially coming out of a pandemic where mental health is, should be first and foremost, and it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem, where sports can be an outlet. One of the first episodes, the topics that we had talked about is just having a free for all, getting out there for the love of the game, unstructured play. And we're missing a lot of that when we're putting different expectations or different burdens on ourselves as parents, on the coaches, and on the kids.
Well, and I think that hits another talking point, right? The downside of all of this is kind of the negative consequences around that: burnout, anxiety, injuries, damaged relationships, and then for the sport itself, right? If you look at the general sport, right, that's going to increase enjoyment, right? There's going to be lesser enjoyment for these kids, even if they stop playing. They're not really going to care about watching the game anymore. Like, they've just lost that passion. And, again, rolling it back, right? I have 6, 7, and 8-year-olds on my team. And one of the first things I say to the parents is, we got to teach the kids to love the game. Because I can do so much as a coach, but if they don't love the game, they don't love training, they don't love playing, they're not going to do it. You can go back to the 10,000 hours, right? They're not going to put that extra hours in when they're not around their coach in unstructured play to develop the skill sets that's needed to get to that 0.01%, right? So there's,
extend that all the way out to you and I in the professional world, because that's really the gap that I'm trying to dig into. If we're teaching life skills and you're teaching passion and energy and a willingness to go above and beyond, to be gritty, that starts as a kid. And if you're teaching the love of the game, I want to be out there. I'm motivated on my own. I'm not motivated by the reward. I'm motivated by the work. That can pivot a psychology of youth sports of a kid early on. And that's really, it's not wins or losses. is that lesson, is that love being fostered
Well, and
at
I
a young
think
age?
you've probably been through it as well as I have. I've had a few interviews in the corporate world. People ask, "Oh, you're an athlete." I'm like, "Yeah, I was, or I still am. I still work out, but for my own benefit." Um,
I mean, loose description of an athlete
yeah,
nowadays.
exactly. Darts is a sport, so come on now,
What do you call it? What do you call darts in Europe or in England?
darts, arrows,
Arrows.
arrows.
Yeah, you really threw me. You want to throw some
Yeah.
arrows?
But it's they look at that in the sales world a lot. They look
Yeah.
about when you're not, when your feet aren't, at the fire, what are you doing to develop more sales, to develop more processes, whatever that is, they look at that as part of the job role, right? You've got to be out there grinding, you've got to be out there communicating, you've got to be out doing as a team member, you got all those different variations needed to be successful in the sales world. They look at that. So from your resume standpoint, have I been part of a team? How long was I there? All those things. I think it's a big deal. But, and again, I want to put the warning out there. This is not all parents, right? There's a lot of parents out there that, and I'll put my hands up to be one of them. My kids dance. I know nothing about technique, right? I just see my kids on the stage and I'm like, this is absolutely brutal. There is 3 to 4 judges. You have 90 seconds to 120 seconds to do your dance, right? And they're critiquing you on, is your toe pointed? Did they do the right extension? All these things. I have no idea. For me, I'm like, good job. I have no idea if that was fantastic or not until we get the grading back and it's out of 300 or 400, depending on the judges. And for me, it's absolutely brutal. And they do have the kind of bullshit ribbons as well. Like, everything's a gold, premium, platinum, you know, fucking excellence award, whatever, right? So you can't really gauge on, in my opinion, you should be 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. But then so you get your scoring and then you get your top 10, right? That's the easy one. That's you were number one, Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last, right? So you can gauge then on weight. But for me, as a number one as a coach, number two as a parent, or I should say the other way around, number one as a parent, number two as a coach, I just clap because I don't know. I don't know if they did great, if they didn't do great. I don't know the scoring system. I don't know the technique system, all those
But
things.
that's just it. You just clapping from your daughter's perspective, seeing you out in the stands, knowing that you're there, whether they win or they lose, is the point.
Correct.
You don't know anything about dance. Sure, you're not going to go back and offer any type of feedback. You actually might be in a better position
Oh,
than
100%.
anybody that knows anything about
100%.
dance, because that car ride home then isn't about pointing your toe or clapping or waving your arms. I don't know anything about dance either. It's about being there.
Somebody told me years ago, and a great bit of advice for any parents listening out there, the best thing you can say in the car journey home of any sport after watching your kid play is, I love watching you play, or I love watching you dance, or I love watching you swim, whatever it is. That's the best piece of advice I ever heard. Because if you start going in and critiquing, the mental side of the game just goes out the window. Because now you're not letting the coach, because now they're thinking and listening for their parents' voice. Now they're working out, is my parent going to be upset with me on the ride home? Am I going to get success on, if I score a goal and I get $1 every time I score, is that taken away from development because now I want to score rather than pass the ball? All those different variations. And it's hard because also you and I chat about this all the time. When I was, in the sport, or, not, I was coached by a parent. It was totally different. And then when I started my coaching career, a little different because I started mine in high school. I did my qualifications then, or started them then. So it's a little different. But you instantly go and coach the way that you were coached by your coaches. So we do liners if we screw up. We do all these different things. And you've seen me, right? And I stole this from a great coach, Sean, years ago. When somebody's out of line, we make them do one push-up. So there's a comedy effect to it as well as a punishment effect to it. One push-up, everyone can do it from 5, 6, 7, 8. It doesn't matter, right? But it's just keeping that line of, you're out of line. So there's a little bit of a punishment, right? Which is one push-up, but it's a comedy effect because you can do one push-up and everyone, has a good time around it. But you can't coach in those old methodologies. So I think like the coaching, Positive Coaching Alliance, And we were chatting about this today. And again, anybody listening, NorCal does symposiums, USSF, you can go online and do coaching qualifications. I would advise people to look at not doing qualifications in the sport that they currently coach. So for you as a baseball coach, maybe a good idea to do a soccer one. I always think you learn something off everyone you watch. It doesn't have to be the sport
Yep.
you're in. To take how they talk to players, how they develop their curriculums, and I'm speaking with another club this week because they're doing something totally different in the soccer industry. They're doing it just all elite. There's no recreation. There's no
Yeah.
local club, local league. They're going all elite. So I think it's huge. And to that in the corporate world as well. I think it's really good. And I think you've been through this as well when you do corporate training. This is good for the sales guys to go and sit in on an engineering, meeting or
Well,
something
it's
and
empathy
absorb it all.
building. Yeah, you're building another perspective of, why you're there, the emotions and impact that somebody else is going through in an uncomfortable environment. Because it is really easy to be an armchair quarterback or a Monday morning quarterback and critique everything that's going on without fully understanding the game or the impact of what you're saying to your kid or to your coach. And I think going back to that, again, we say 80s style of coaching, there is a volume level, aggression level, profanity level, where it was all about results. And it was 24/7 about the result and not about the work. And then we repeat the cycle. We come in and expect that, one, to be the way to coach, two, to be the way to parent. There have been more and more advancements in the child psychology perspective on the impact that that has and the motivations that we're creating. There's a great book of there's the carpenter and the gardener. As a carpenter, you have a set of objects that you can assemble into the end product. You can go build a house, you can go build a chair, you can go build a table. Then there's gardening. You can't tell a tomato how to grow. You can't go in and manipulate the amount of seeds, the amount of freshness. It just grows, but you can foster an environment where it thrives.
Yeah.
You can water, you can feed, you can protect. And parenting and coaching follows a similar mindset.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
go in and say there is one way to do it, it is my way, but that child doesn't react to that way, you're going to create an artificial structure
Yeah.
versus the gardening mentality of provide the environment that the child needs to grow. And there's not one way to do it, but you respond to the child. We were just talking this morning about, kids on your team. Some respond well to a very strict regimen of this is the drill, this is because they thrive in that environment. That is their personality. There's another set of kids that if you were to critique them in that moment, they completely shut down. And I see that across baseball the same way. The more you get outside of their mental comfort zone of how they don't learn well, it becomes a cerebral game. Oh, I don't want to screw up. Oh, I need to do it. And then they become a robot
Yeah.
and they don't love the game and their performance suffers as a result because you're not meeting them where they need to be.
Well, we lose creativity, but that's my biggest peeve in all of this. Is I really struggle with not letting the kids fail on their own. Right, that kills me. Like we don't know what they're gonna do with the ball next. I have no, and I you've heard me say this multiple times, but parents can scream, shout all they want. When the ball's at their feet, they don't hear it. Nobody hears it. You're in the zone of what you want to achieve. So it's my job as a coach to make sure that when you receive that ball, what are my objectives? And my small age group is very, very simple, right? Find space, attack the space. We'll develop the rest as you get older, as your peripheral vision kicks in, as your muscles develop, all those different things we can do. But let's shift a little bit. Like, how do we help people here? So, like a healthy approach to, I don't want to say we're talking negative, but just everything we've experienced over the last kind of week.
Yeah.
So, I think a few things that I've tried to help with parents. So, encourage the parents to make it fun, right? The skill development and the teamwork, the character building, the love of the game, the fostering of the game. And you've heard me say this all the time. So I always give my kids a lot of, cheeky crap all the time, right? You got to do 10 juggles by summer, otherwise you can't play for me next year, right? But it's fun, it's encouraging. Did the dog just run down and smash something?
When you want to talk about a struggle bubble,
I
did you
did.
hear that? So we're in this new setup and this hopefully gets cut out of the podcast. We'll see what type of editing skills that we have. But nonetheless, you talk about a struggle bubble. I've got a little bit of a setup that is probably not OSHA approved. There's a vise involved. There's a set of books involved to hold the microphone stand up. Well, that was not put together in
So we're
a.
going back to the carpenter and the gardener.
I
There
was
we go.
not a good carpenter. I watered and I nurtured. However, I'm just going to hold the
Oh,
microphone in my hand.
perfect. Okay, so back to it. Yeah, so shift the focus for any parents that are out there. Make it fun, right? Give the encouragement, give some targets, right? And again, if you don't know, as a coach myself, ask the coach what the best thing to do. And you'll hear me say this multiple times. You got a wall at your house, perfect. Kick the ball against it, right? Variations: left foot, right foot, ball in the air, ball down, all the different inside of the foot, outside of the foot, receive in different ways. YouTube's your best helper, but make it fun, right? Encourage the kids. If I can juggle, if you've never played baseball, for example, like myself, maybe I take my kid out the back, and if I can learn how to hit the ball 10 times off the tee, then you can do it, right? So you make it fun environment. I always say, let the kids lead as well, right? Emphasize the importance of the kids choosing, right? So I want to be a catcher today. Perfect. Let me go throw the balls for you. I'm going to be, I have it all the time in soccer, right? I never ever at this age, obviously, we don't specify positions. But so I want to be centre midfield today. Okay, go ahead. Let's see how you do, right? And maybe I do it for 5-10 minutes, but let them lead what they feel like. And that's why you'll see on my team that you have, my goalkeepers rotate all the time because I've made it and it's a bit of a hot topic, the goalkeeper situation. I never force a kid going goal, but I make it encouraging that if somebody screws up, nobody screams, nobody shouts, nobody points fingers. It's the team that conceded the goal, not the goalkeeper that conceded the goal. So now we have multiple players trying goalkeeper because they're not scared of the consequences if it goes sideways, right?
And that's just it, finding that love of the game and not forcing it. And but that's the framework that we're talking about. If that starts from a young age, just asking, do you want to play this sport? And sometimes you do want to encourage them to get out of the comfort zone. So we can sign them up. And then you start asking, what did you love about practice? What did you love about being in the backyard? And that starts clicking in their minds of, well, I love playing with you, Dad. I don't care what sport it is. I love that we're throwing a ball. My son and I invented a game because I started to fall into those traps, and we're not immune to it.
Yeah,
You want them to improve their swing, you want them to improve their technique. But at the end of the day, if they're just out there to have fun and you're making it not fun, stop, take a pause, understand what you're trying to do, and it's an outlet.
yeah,
And the more fun that they're having, it will lead to better results. And sometimes those results are completely out of your control. Genes are different, traits are different. There's a great story by one of our local dads. He went on and played a high level of baseball and didn't make his all-star team. Not one year. I didn't make my all-star team growing up. I didn't make many comp teams growing up. But you have that love of the game and that drive and that grittiness, and that creates the fun. And
yeah.
just reframing that focus. I'm not out here today to win. I'm not out here today to have the best Ken Griffey swing. I'm not out here to be messy. I'm out here to have fun.
Well, you touch on a key point there, and I want to leave it off with about 5 or 6 different points for people that can take and take it in and maybe reevaluate a few things. But your point you just made about the messy, the winning and losing happens when you're at the pro level. That's when winning and losing really counts. The winning and losing all the way up to that point. And when I say pro, I'm talking about college as well, because the NIA money that's involved in that now as well, right? That's real. But the winning and losing side of it honestly only matters at that point. Even like high school, and it's so important. But as we know, right, we know people that coach at the highest level. We also know, people are out scouting players all the time. We're actually what they're looking for, and I hope all parents listen to this. I'm just going to call it out on like the baseball, for example. They're still looking at kids they can develop at high school. They're not looking at the finished article when they're looking to give a kid a scholarship. They're looking at the whole package. And I talk about this in soccer all the time when people are trying to do videos. I don't need to see you kicking a ball. I don't need to see you scoring 12 times. I need to see your whole game. How are you around your team environment? How are you around the coach? How are you around when something goes
Yeah.
wrong? What running do you do off the ball as when you have the ball? Are you a lazy player? Do you know, do you miss a shot and then the next time it comes you score because your brain works quick enough that you forget the negative and you go straight to the. That's what I'm looking at all the way
Do
up
you
to
make
that next
everybody
level.
around you better? I mean, that's something that we
Totally.
lose focus on. We talked yesterday about, having multiple coaches, meaning the kids, multiple captains that make everybody around you better. The Tom Brady effect, the Michael Jordan effect, the players around them didn't want to let their other teammates down. Not winning a championship is not a failed season. The growth that you have, that is the successful season. The desire to come back, the desire to be a better person, the desire to be a better teammate is everything that we're trying to build. And to your point of, really trying to shine, if that day comes for a high school coach, for a college scout, for a professional scout, it is the intangibles of that grittiness and work ethic. They're not going to look at the record of the team when they were 9 years old, say, "Hey, you lost that tournament, up in Northern California. I'm not going to recruit you."
Yeah. 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 I think people get lost a little bit on that pretty hard as well. So kind of last five shots for people that are still listening. We're going a bit longer than normal, but to help the kids, right? Be supportive, don't be pusher. Focus on effort, not outcome. Right? Did you give 100% today? Or if you're not, I always say this as well. If you only got 50% in you, give that 50%. Right? No one can give 100% every time, but give everything you've got in the locker. Right? Leave it all on the field, as we say in football. Right? Be positive and encourage, not critical, right? Don't get on the negatives, right? You made that left foot pass. Great. It maybe didn't succeed. You hear me say it all the time. Trust your left, trust your left. Just trust it. It eventually will develop and it will be a positive, but don't say you made a bad pass. Say trust your left and move with it, right? Celebrate the small victories, not milestones. Okay. So celebrate, we had a good season, we've all grown, whatever that may be. It doesn't matter if you made all stars or not. We've got to do it all again next year. Get excited and pumped for that next year of baseball, soccer, whatever. Big one here. Listen to your child's feelings and concerns. Ask open-ended questions. Huge one. Again, going back to giving 100%. If the kid's not into it today, that's okay. But then if they're not into it, you don't know that, and you start drilling them that they're playing shit and they need to step it up, we're only going to go backwards. We're not going forwards, right? And then the big one for me as well, be a role model and good sportsman, right? Always again, if you take anything out of this, I love watching you play on the car ride home. Such a big element to kids' progression, development.
Yeah, just showing up, letting them know that you are there, that you're an outlet, and that performance on that given day is not who they are as a person. We can talk about effort, but goals scored, home runs hit, batting average, all of that stress and anxiety, they have enough of that already. Day in and day out, we joke a little bit about, a comment on the playground, not getting a football and getting a basketball instead, or an assignment in school could derail their thought process that creates a domino effect all the way out on the field. Sports should be an outlet where they can just be themselves, have fun, have limited expectations so that they can have fun and know that you're there. And there is a treasure trove of information out there as parents. Recommend, Craig, you've called out the Positive Coaching Alliance. Visit their website. As a parent, as a coach, as an administrator, a tremendous amount of tools that you can use to focus on being a better role model for your kids. And again, not just your kid, but everybody that has eyes on you. Because if you are yelling on a sideline, if you're having a conversation that's a little bit out of bounds with a referee or an umpire, the kids are sponges. Be the role model, be the example so that we can keep umpires and officials and great coaches in the ecosystem and not lose them. A couple others, Coach Ballgame on Instagram. Love watching him. It's baseball related, but he is able to hit on the key points of what it's like to be out there and really puts it in great terms so that the kids are developing and hearing the right messages of positivity across. And then Dr. Becky, we've been talking in our household about Dr. Becky for many, many years on Instagram. Fantastic, not just for athletes, but for parents to really focus on what matters and meeting your child where they are and learning every day. Craig, as you pointed out, we are not going to be masters of coaching or masters of parenting. It doesn't exist, but we can continue to build our tool set to have better experiences and reinforce the positive message.
Yeah, for sure. And reach out. We're also, we can advise and help where we can, right? So reach out. You want some more knowledge base, what we're doing, how we're doing it, then let us know. We're happy to help.
And we are far from experts. These are not legal opinions. We are not doctors. We're not psychologists. But we've experienced it. We've experienced it as athletes, as coaches. Everywhere we go, we can offer a different perspective. And I mean, honestly, if you're asking for that feedback, you're already in the right mindset. How can you get better? Let's level set together and be open to that feedback. There is nothing worse than as a league administrator, as a coach, where if your opinion and your mind's made up as a parent already, and it's just a check the box conversation, it's really hard for us to dig in and start problem solving together. So come in open minded. There's many different ways to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, but being there for the right reasons is where it all starts.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that was a deep one.
With that, I think we wrap it up. We're going to make everything available for comments and feedback on Instagram, and the upcoming episodes will be interesting as well as we go through what it takes to coach, to parent with coaches, and any other topics that people want to bring our way. We are all open to it. And then we didn't even go into what we actually did over this weekend or what we're about to do with tournaments and the summer starting and school being let out. So plenty to talk about on future episodes. We appreciate you listening. Please subscribe and find us on our Instagram, The Struggle Bubble Pod. Craig, I'll probably see you in like 2 hours on the field.
Adios.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.